Okay, right. Hello, Holly.
Hello, we made it, Helen.
We made it. We were supposed to be going live, but clearly Facebook hated that idea, so we'll record it instead. Screw you,
Yeah.
Facebook. That's fine. So we're here to talk about money, everybody's favourite topic. But before we do that, could you just let our lovely watchers and listeners know who you are and why we're talking about money today?
Yes, thank you, Helen. So hello, everyone. I'm Holly Dannhauser. I own a company called Moon and Mountain, and I'm on a mission to help people live a life of greater clarity, ease, purpose, and fulfillment. And ultimately, that leads to freedom. And what I realized from my own business journey is that our relationship with money can be a massive help or a massive hindrance in that journey. So we're talking money for the very purpose of how it can help you get closer to the life that you dream of and that, quite frankly, you deserve. And it's been my pleasure to train as a money mindset mentor to help other people just like me help to flush out their money demons and really understand and improve their relationship with money in their lives.
Yeah, and I'm so excited that you're going to be speaking at Happier Life Live next week, because I don't think it's possible to talk about happiness and fulfillment in life if we don't look at the money side of things.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it's the route to freedom. It's a huge issue. It's one of the most anxiety causing issues. It's something that causes issues in relationships. So we can't talk about happier life if we don't talk about money. But what I wanted to talk about today, Holly, was why you think so many people find it difficult to talk about money. Why is it such a scary topic for lots of people?
Oh, and it really is, Helen. And there may be some people looking at the fact that we're talking about money and maybe even not wanting to watch this video or thinking, oh no, that, it's a bit. And I talk a bit about the money ick.
Yes.
And how there's this sort of negativity associated with money in so many different ways. And the reality is we all experience money in our own way. We all experience money differently, yet it's such a shared experience because we all have a relationship with money. So it can be difficult to talk about for a number of reasons. The first, I would say, is that for many people, including myself, before I started on this journey of really investigating and exploring my relationship with money, we're sort of wandering around fairly unconsciously connected to our feelings and our emotions around money. The second part of that really is that we can then attribute labels to ourselves quite easily. Things like, oh, I'm terrible with money, or oh, I just have it and I spend it and it's just gone and I don't know, or even I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what's in my bank account. I don't know what my bills are every month. I don't want to know. I don't need to know. And I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look. So there's, whichever way you look at it, there's some level of disconnect. And that leads to an emotional disconnect. We don't really know what do we feel about it? What's really going on underneath everything? So then why would we talk about it if we're quite disconnected? Why would it even be a conscious thing to come to our minds? The consequence of that emotional disconnect is that we can be fairly buffeted by our emotions. We don't really know what's going on. We sort of get shifted around by them. Or, which leads me on to my second point about why it's so difficult, is that we then leave ourselves exposed to being affected by other people's emotions or experiences with money. Yes. And when I say other people, I might mean those around us. Or I could be talking about society. It's uncouth or it's impolite to talk about money, so don't. Or I mean social media or the media at large. How many times do you open a paper or see something online that's talking about the cost of living crisis? You can't turn the radio on without energy cap going up again, or food banks being overwhelmed. There is so much negativity, for good reason in some cases, around money, but this is what we are absorbing on a very unconscious level sometimes.
These are the waters we're swimming in.
Very daily. So ultimately, Helen, one of the reasons it's so difficult to talk about money is that for many of us, we don't feel empowered around money.
Yeah.
We don't have positive, empowered feelings. And that means that we're often operating from a place of lack or fear, anxiety, as you've said already. And therefore we can go into avoidant or victim state, or just don't want to know.
Yeah, because anything that scares us, we're going to have a reaction to that is probably not that helpful or healthy often, exactly. Unless, as you say, we've done quite a bit of work on it. It's funny because, you talk about people being, I don't even want to look at it. I don't even know what's going on, which, is quite common. I'm on the other end of the scale. So a few years ago, I would have said to you, and probably have said to you when we first met, oh, I don't have issues around money, Holly, which is nonsense, absolute rubbish. But because I am very on top of it, I look at it every day and I know what's where and I know what I'm doing and I've got it planned and I've got it budgeted, which is just the other side of the coin. It means I'm quite anxious about it and I want to be able to control it. And I don't like it when it feels out of my control. And so, of course, I have money mindset stuff as well. It's just slightly different. Yeah, so I don't think anyone gets away without having some kind of emotional reaction to money, do they?
Correct. Yeah, and so the money mindset mentoring that I do, the training that I've undertaken, works with 8 different money personalities.
Oh wow!
And we are a combination of all 8 of those. And exactly as you describe, it's a dynamic and it's a spectrum. There is a whole melting pot of different attitudes and personalities towards money. And I am like you, Helen. I am one of those people. I'm what's called an accumulator personality, which means that I like to see money in the bank. It means that I feel safe and secure, but it also means that I have a very overdone relationship with money, that I scrutinize everything and I know exactly what's where at any one time. And giving up any sense of financial control, even to the wonderful Caroline Boardman, my accountant, and
our accountant, the wonderful Caroline,
the wonderful Caroline, means that I almost want to know what Caroline's doing all the time. I'm like, but how does that work? And what are you doing there? And that's her job. But relinquishing control and trust around money is a harder thing. It's a harder path for me to tread than it would be for someone that is more on the avoidance side of money and just wants someone else to deal with it.
Yes.
So we all have our own relationship with money. We all have our own feelings and emotions and attitudes that are created by a whole melting pot of various different things in our lives. So no one is untouched by
no one is untouched. And it's interesting as well, because of course we're thinking here about our relationships with money. People watching will be thinking about their relationship with money. But as business owners, which is what most of my audience is, certainly most of the people who'll be at the event next week, as business owners, it's really important to have some idea of our clients' relationship with money as well, because often that's where sometimes client relationships break down or get bumpy when we're talking about money and someone needs paying or someone needs a refund, and then people's money stuff comes up, doesn't it?
It really does. And I would say there's another layer to this as well, which is almost before that, which is how do you brand yourself? How do you market yourself? How comfortable are you sharing your figures or your prices? What price point do you even go for? All of that is affected by your relationship with money. What role are you creating for yourself in your business? It's affected by your relationship with money. Are you trying to sell a high-end product to a market? Well, then having an understanding of who and the personality that you're trying to pitch that to, and that might be very different to your money personality. So, are you actually limiting yourself by marketing in a way that suits you, but not the personality with money or relationship with money that you're seeking to draw into your business world?
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's it's so multi-layered and it's fascinating. It's like once you know what's going on with your own relationship with money, it's like you crack wide open this code. Everything starts to make sense. Things fall into place. It's actually quite relieving. It's like, oh my God, that's why. And I don't have to keep pushing on all this stuff that doesn't feel easy to me. Maybe I could ask someone else to do that bit.
Yeah, 100%. And that always excites me. Any kind of light bulb moment. We'll be talking at next week's event about money, about sex, about lifestyle, about different cultures and different mindsets and different brain types. And it's those moments, like you say, where you go, oh, that's why. All right. And it's like, now you can make some progress,
Yeah.
which is so exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're quite right. And, pricing is so, I've got a coaching group I do with Amy Newton, who's an interior designer. We coach interior designers. And our session on pricing, she talks about pricing and I talk about self-worth, because the two are so connected.
100%.
It's just such an important facet of it. But as you say, if you are someone who is very, I will only ever pay the minimum, I always want to bargain, I always want to shave some money off that, can we make it cheaper? And you're trying to sell to people who only trust something that's expensive, you've got to understand that aspect, haven't you? And as you say, a lot of people don't even know where they are, let alone where their clients are.
Absolutely. I think what you've said there about the coaching that you do in the group with Amy, that is fundamental. It's something that I talk a lot about when I try and tell people I'm a money mindset mentor, and they're like, well, what's that? And then they think it's financial advice. It is not.
Yeah.
Quite often we'll be having a to and fro about what it is, what it isn't. And then I essentially say, look, money is a route in. It's a route in that feels very understandable to people because everyone has a sense of the money in their life. But it's a much more comfortable route in sometimes, because of that very practical nature of it, to talking about self-worth. And you can't talk about money without talking about value, and value that you put on your life, the value you put on yourself, how you perceive value. They are completely intertwined. And for me, when you start looking at your money relationship, you are immediately exploring your own self-worth. You are immediately looking at your levels of confidence, your levels of compassion for yourself, your levels of understanding about yourself, and ultimately the value that is inherent within your life, and connecting more with that. So when I said at the start about people aren't consciously connected to their feelings about money, often money is a way into a conversation of consciously connecting with yourself too. It's fascinating. I find the whole thing just so liberating, so transformational, and everyone has it. Everyone has this going on in some way or another. And yeah, it's really, really powerful stuff.
It is, and it's the work, isn't it? And I absolutely love your passion, Holly. I mean, passion is one of my key values. It's one of the values of Happier Life Live next week. And I think when people think about the passion, the joy, the adventure that I want to bring to this event, they probably won't be thinking of you. It's like, oh yeah, and Holly's talking about money, but it's like, no, these are the things that money helps you to have the adventures. And, you're so passionate about helping people with this stuff, which is amazing. I wonder, actually, just as we're talking, I'm thinking about how, as I said at the start, how it's one of the key things that can cock up people's relationships, really. It can cause all the arguments and all the stress. Do you ever work with couples? Do you ever sort of veer into the relationship counselling side of things?
Yeah, I do have something that I offer, which is, so as I said before, I work with money personalities, these 8 different personalities, and everyone's a melting pot of all 8, as I said. And I do have an offer, which is how I support partners. So you might be in a romantic relationship, you might be in a business relationship. And what that involves is really helping each of the people in that dynamic to understand their money personalities first. And then we come together as those two together, and me, to support them to understand each other and to explore, okay, well, if you have this personality and you have that personality, how is that showing up for each of you individually? And crucially, how is it showing up when you come together to collaborate, whether, as I say, that's an intimate relationship or a professional relationship? And it's just so fascinating. I remember, obviously I've done a lot of work on my own money mindset, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know why this memory came up, but I in one of my previous relationships, it was quite a tumultuous relationship in itself. It obviously wasn't the right one for me long term. But we had this massive fight about something that felt so mundane at the time. And it was because, me being quite a clumsy person, I'd spilt something on myself at dinner. Like, it had gone all down my front.
Sounds like me.
at his house. Yeah, he'd cooked this meal for us, and I'd spilt some of it, and I was like, oh, it's this top, I really like it. And he's like, oh, I'll just put it in the wash. And he put it in the wash on its own, one top on its own. And I flipped. I was like, I cannot believe you've just put a whole wash on it. And look, it's going to be on for an hour and a half with that one top going round on its own. And I could not, and he couldn't see the problem with it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand how he could just so sort of flippantly put this whole wash on with one item. And we just had this big blow up conversation, this big argument. And ultimately, our thoughts, our behaviors, and our feelings around money, essentially, because I was thinking, what a waste of water, what a waste of cost, what, all this sort of stuff. We were completely misaligned. He had no understanding of me. I had no understanding of him. And what ends up is a massive fight about a top in the wash. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's a great example, though, because for the first thing, it's those things that trip us up. It's not the let's get a mortgage together, because that's a big conversation. It's the little things where you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know people thought differently about that. Like, wow.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And also it's the fact that without any understanding, you go straight to row rather than compassionate conversation, curious conversation, which we hope we would have now that we've done some of the work. But it's like, nope, straight to just having a massive row, which of course is never helpful. That's amazing. I love that. That's such a good example.
It is really interesting. And I suppose the other thing to say about when you asked, do I work with couples or partners? So I'm a strategist by trade, if you like. That's a big part of my business. Is I do strategy development for organizations of all sizes. And for me, I'm a very logical person. I love to see a plan in place. But the reason that I've got into the money mindset work as a key component that sits alongside this is because and I'm talking more about business owners, but really it could apply to any type of collaborative relationship. We are, whether consciously or subconsciously, we are planning all of the time. We are thinking whether it's what's our next holiday that we're going to have, or how we're going to grow and scale a business, or should we start employing more people, or how do we make sure that our tax bill is paid, or the council tax has gone up, what we're going to do about it. There's every single collaborative relationship that we have, there is a planning element to it. But even in those small examples I've given, you can see how there's a money mindset element to it.
Hugely, yeah.
So all of my work now is about bringing the strategy and planning work that I offer alongside, well, hang on, let's really understand and explore how the money mindset and the confidence with money is going to be playing a part here. And crucially for collaborative partnerships, there will be undoubtedly people's different strengths and different challenges around money, and therefore around planning and implementing your plan or taking those decisions. Once you know that, I mean, what a whole world of actually, you do that bit, I'll do that bit. And it isn't just, here's a plan, how we're logically going to implement it.
Yeah.
It becomes much deeper, becomes much richer in its deployment of your resources. Therefore, you're more effective. And going back to my earlier point, things just feel easier. And don't we all just want a bit more ease? And to make money in an easier way? Hello.
Yeah, and this is where our work, crosses over, Holly, because this is exactly why I'm a life coach, not a business coach. Most people who come to me are business owners, but you can't plan or untangle anything about your business unless you understand what's going on in the whole of your life. To my mind, anyway, I just think, if you're running a business, it's all about you. So let's find out all about you. We could talk all day. I know we could. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because, like you say, it is fascinating. But thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait to see you on stage next week.
I can't wait either. I've got so much to talk about. It's going to be such a challenge to squeeze it all in.
Keep it small.
So I'm going to try and